Hello, neighbors. It is Wednesday, September 17th. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Tonight, we're going to talk about homelessness and how the city can and actually can't help. So, my hair's wet. I'm in a t shirt, and it's been a busy day. So, you guys are really starting to get the unvarnished angel. I have just a wee bit of makeup on. That's about it. Um, and I'm just talking to you because I'm just your neighbor. Yeah, of course I want to be the mayor. I'm going to get comfortable here and sit back a little bit, but I'm your neighbor ultimately, and I just happen to be a government nerd and a political nerd, and I just happened to go out and get the right master's degree. Um, so I kind of felt like I had to be the mayor as well. So anyway, you can see Maggie's poking her head in. She might let out a little bark or two. Some lovely folks are coming across the street for church tonight, so please forgive us if you hear a little yap. She's usually really quiet though. I've got a great little girl. So, all right, guys, I'm going to launch right in. So the reason I chose this topic for tonight is because it is the top thing that I would have liked to have debated Charlie Kirk on had I ever had the chance. Um, he and I very much disagree on why people are homeless. He says that flat out, and there are tons of videos, you can totally look him up, where he says there are two kinds of homeless people: people with mental illness and drug addicts. And while I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it and say that a lot of homeless people don't have mental illness or addiction problems, it's not everybody. It's certainly not everybody. And I had a crash course in homelessness when I lived in Kalamazoo, and I got to know dozens of homeless people. Um, I helped out at First Congregational Church in downtown Kalamazoo during Code Blue, which was when we had that polar vortex 5-ish or so years ago where like the whole state shut down. Pastor Nathan Dannison knew that people would die in that cold, and he asked the city of Kalamazoo to do something about it, and they said, nah, we don't want to. So he called the other, well, there are 16 churches in Kalamazoo, and there's FCC, his church, and then FBC, First Baptist Church, and they're right next door to each other, and they partner on a lot of things. They have keys to each other's churches. So he knew they would be a good partner with him. But he called the other 14 churches and asked them to just sponsor like between 5 and 10 people, like just however you want to do it, whether you want to pay for a hotel or have them stay in your church or stay with a congregant, whatever, just sponsor a handful of people. And I'll give you a minute to guess how many churches said yes. This many. So FCC and FBC partnered and each opened as a pop-up homeless shelter, and I helped coordinate the one at FCC. And for days, I was there running home to maybe take a shower and give my dogs a kiss and come right back. And I got to know a lot of people, and I heard dozens and dozens of personal stories on how people became homeless. And yes, of course, there are people there with addiction problems. Yes, of course, there are people there with mental illnesses. I think of a veteran who had some really, really bad PTSD that too many of us got to see when a fire alarm accidentally went off and sent him into an absolute panic. Pastor Jerry, if you're watching, we talked a little today about the time that the Holy Ghost came through for me. I'll tell you the rest of that story in private someday. But it has to do with that gentleman named Sean. He and his wife really made a huge impact on me. They are wonderful people. And they, at the time, I've lost track of them, unfortunately, but they were homeless. And they were good people. They didn't have fancy educations. They probably didn't come from wonderful, amazing families, but they seemed to be very hardworking. They were incredibly kind, generous with their time. Sean served as our medic, and he dressed wounds and frostbite and helped one resident, one guest who had gangrene and had lost some toes, and he took really good care of him. Without Sean, that other gentleman who actually lived on the porch next door to me for quite some time, he would probably have lost his foot instead of just a couple of toes, maybe his life had the infection gotten worse. And I saw how hard life was for them. When there wasn't a great shelter to go to, they were living in a tent, and it started when they just got a paycheck or two behind. And just one thing snowballed into another. And I didn't go to college until I was 35. So I spent my first 5 years here in Michigan flat broke, flat broke. And I'm so blessed that I have some people behind me who love me. I remember having to borrow money from my aunt and uncle to get a pair of black pants with button loops, and non-stick shoes, or I'm sorry, non-skid shoes, so I could go work at Red Lobster in my 30s. Like that was rough. That hurt my pride, to have to borrow, $60 from a family member. But I was grateful because they loaned me the money. So I got to go and get that job and not end up homeless. Times in my life where I had a really bad landlord or a really bad roommate and I needed to move like that. Actually, when I moved out of my apartment at 20 North Main, like that, due to threats from a neighbor, I'm so blessed that I had my stepdad who has a big, beautiful home out in the country and says, "Hey, kid, come on here, come stay here." I mean, I lived at his house total for like probably 2.5 or 3 years over, several different times. And he helped me get through college like that when I didn't have to pay a ton of rent. I would give him a little money here and there, but I mean, he wouldn't take much. But I'm super blessed that I have those people. Not everybody does. I have my notes here, so that's what I'm looking down at. Um, I think of the people who are in really abusive relationships and don't have the money to get an apartment on their own, or maybe don't have great credit and probably couldn't get an apartment on their own, even if they have a decent job, even if they've somehow socked away a deposit. Um, that's hard. There are a lot of people in abusive relationships because they can't move, not because they don't want to leave an abusive partner, but because they can't. Or maybe they have pets. Or my little girl right behind me, sorry, this isn't mirror image, so I always get confused. Um, I would live in my car before I would get rid of her. I'm grateful that I'm a homeowner now, and she's been with me only in this house. But when I had my two little dogs, that some of you might remember, Gabby and Gracie, it was really hard to find apartments that would allow me to have two dogs. And I'll tell you, I would lay down my life for my dogs. And if it weren't for my stepdad Kevin, there are times I might have been living in my car. So I just want people to think past everybody being homeless, being, a victim of mental illness or of addiction, because that's not the only reasons why people end up homeless. So those are just some things I want to say. Those are the things I would have said to Charlie Kirk and said, "What do you say to that?" So I don't know what he would have said. But let's talk about something else. Recently, I've been talking to a lot of neighbors and talking about my campaign and asking about their concerns. And a lot of people bring up homelessness. And some people have recently told me that our homeless population really grows in the summertime and that it shrinks down in the winter because people go back up to Kalamazoo and stay in the shelters there. Well, I was doing some research today, and it seems right now there's a big problem because Kalamazoo is eliminating 160 beds. Sorry, a car just went by. I'm not sure you heard that. They're eliminating 160 beds come October. That's a lot of people who aren't going to have anywhere to go. Now, the city of Kalamazoo, the county of Kalamazoo actually is putting out almost $400,000. It was like 396 or something to work on this problem. I know some of the commissioners on the county commission in Kalamazoo, and they're good people. And homelessness is a big concern for them, and they're going to try to do everything they can to help mitigate the damages caused by 160 beds no longer being there. But they can only do so much. And here in Three Rivers, we don't have $400,000 to try to fix that problem, and to try to keep people from dying in the snow. So we've got to figure something out. Also, are the people who are here this summer going to have somewhere to go back to this winter? It sounds like maybe not. So this is just something I learned today. And I should also say, I don't have all the answers. I did not come to make this video tonight to be like, here's my plan. Here's how we're going to fix it. Everything's going to be great. Homelessness is a huge national problem. But I invite everybody to put your thinking caps on and start figuring out how you think you could contribute. what ideas you have, and maybe start a comment thread on this event page on Facebook or in the comments here on YouTube, and maybe we can get some good ideas together. Certainly, once I'm elected, I would love to put together a task force to help us at least get a handle on what needs to be done, because I don't even think we know where to start. If there's work being done through the city that I'm not privy to yet, maybe I'll learn something when I get there. But to the best of my knowledge, there is no plan. So we need to create a plan. Okay, so I keep saying, like, I can't do anything on my own. When I get in there, I'm one vote on the board. That's it. But what I can do is publicize issues and problems and good things and bad things and try to rally the troops. And that's you guys. I need people to join me. I need everybody to join me, or I won't be successful. We won't be successful. This isn't about me. This is about our town. This is about our neighbors. And anybody who's watching a video about homelessness cares about the homeless. I know that. And I need you. We all need you. We all have to put our thinking caps on. So, one of the things I would like to do is find a way to reduce the number of empty houses that we have that are in disrepair. Right back that way, empty house. Right over that way, empty house. Right down that way, empty house. Right down that way, empty house. Right up that way, recently condemned house. That's too many for me to just be able to point to, from where I'm sitting. And there's so many more. So I think it's time that the city work on finding a way to incentivize the owners to either A, clean up these houses, because some of them are ones that were condemned. The one that's over that way was absolutely disgustingly filthy. And I guess the people moved, got evicted, whatever. They don't live there anymore. And the landlords pretty much boarded it up, or the owners, I should say, boarded it up, threw up some signs saying that they have cameras, and that's it. It's been sitting there for, I'm gonna guess, maybe a year empty. Don't hold me to that quote, but it's been a really long time. So I would like to see these homes inhabited. I would like to see people live there. I'm getting a question: are they owned or in foreclosure? I think if they were in foreclosure, they would go up for auction because the banks want their money. So I know that this one behind me over here is owned. I talked to a neighbor who knows the owner and said that he just uses it for storage. It's not in disrepair, at least. I mean, he could cut the grass a little more often, but heck, I could cut my grass a little more often too. That's not really the problem. I'm talking more about the ones that are boarded up. The one down that way, broken windows, just in terrible shape. The one over there, obviously, I just spoke about. The condemned one up the street on Hoffman. We need to fix that. So I was talking to a group the other night and I said, I don't know whether we need a carrot or a stick here, but I want to find out what our legal options are to incentivize incentivize people to fix them up and rent them out or sell them, or disincentivize having a home in disrepair here. I don't know what the answers are, but I know that we pay our city attorney a boatload of money and he can find out. He probably knows off the top of his head. If he doesn't, it's a few hours of research for anybody with a bar card to go ahead and find out. So that would be one of the first things I would want to do in terms of ending homelessness. My house, the owner passed away. The previous owner passed away, and that's how it came up for sale. And it meant that I got to move out of my dirt cheap apartment in the Vine in Kalamazoo and become a homeowner, which has been, oh my goodness, such a blessing. My little 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house is the best thing that ever happened to me outside of my dogs. I thank God for it every single day. It's wonderful. I know that nobody's going to sell it out from under me like I had happen with so many landlords. I'm not going to have to worry about things. It's very affordable. I was smart when I bought this house, and I bought way below my means. I spent not even 2/3 of what I was approved for. And I was lucky. I made a great decision. I had an amazing realtor, Heather Martell. She is a gift from God, and she helped find me a house that was the price I wanted to pay. Mortgage rates were good at the time. But anyway, it took me out of a cheap rental, which allowed somebody else to move into that cheap rental. So every house that we put back out in the world frees up something else, you know? So there's a chain reaction, there's a trickle up effect there. So that's my one big idea is let's try to fill up our empty houses. That's really the only thing I personally have. Other than there's one other thing I would like to do. There are organizations and agencies here in town and in the surrounding area in the county that help people do things like get their ID. That was a big deal when I was getting to know homeless people, is that so many of them didn't have identification. They became homeless under chaotic conditions. They didn't have, like I do, a little box with my social security card and my birth certificate and everything you need in case you lose your purse, or your wallet if you're a guy or whatever. But I have all those things. I've always been blessed that I never had to worry about it. However, even just when I moved to Michigan, I didn't have like a certified copy of my birth certificate. That took, a couple of trips to the library to do some stuff online. Thank you, library ladies. God bless you. I love you. Bunch of phone calls. It took a credit card because I had to pay like $12 to the state of Illinois. So there are barriers, and you can't get a job. You can't get an apartment. You can't really do much of anything without an ID. So thank goodness we have, groups like that around here who are helping. Also, I studied homelessness at length academically. And one of the things I discovered, and this was 8 to 10 years ago, so certainly the number has gone up with inflation. But at the time, a lot of literature pointed me to the fact that generally speaking, $400 was about the issue. It was two really big heat bills, it was a car repair, it was 1 week of being really sick and not being able to go to work that pushed people into the spiral that becomes homelessness. I read so many stories about folks who, had their electricity shut off or their gas shut off. And what do you know? In your lease, it says if any of your utilities are shut off, you're up for eviction. Well, now all of a sudden you're up for eviction and you can't pay that bill. And then, oh goodness, you blow a tire and the whole world falls apart. And that's the case for a lot of Americans. I mean, I don't know the percentages off the top of my head, but I think all of us have seen data to show that like a large percentage of Americans can't handle a $1,000 emergency. That's terrible. But it's the world we live in right now. So what are we going to do about it? I think that the city can gather a list of resources, make sure that people know who to contact. Oh, hi, Squirrely. There's a squirrel out on my deck here. So that people know who to contact when they need $200 or $300 to pay off an expense. Car repairs are hard. I've been through some really tough times myself. I must turn too hard or something, because no matter what kind of car I get, I have consistently broken axles my whole life. And they're expensive to fix. It's a few $100, and if you don't have it, something isn't getting paid. So the city can compile a list of resources and just make it really obvious on our Facebook, or I'm sorry, on our website, and maybe even on our Facebook page. It's 2025. Like I said on my website, there's no reason for us not to be communicating really well. When you go to the city's website right now, the landing page is showing a DDA meeting from like February. It isn't February of 26, I don't think. I think it's literally last February. So we need some updating. Really quickly, I had a former commissioner come to a meet and greet last night, or night before last, and he had a great idea, was to get our high school kids involved in our social media and our website creation and updating. That would be great. If we don't have an internship program yet, we should. So guys, that's really all I've got for you tonight. I disagree with Charlie Kirk. There are more than two kinds of folks who are homeless, and most people are a paycheck away. Some people are homeless because of abusive relationships. We've got 160 fewer beds in Kalamazoo come October. We've got a whole lot of empty houses down here, and the need for a resource list. So that's what I've got for you tonight, guys. Please put your thinking caps on. Please be ready, because I'm going to be elected on November 4th. I'm speaking in the positive, and I need you. I need you. We all need each other. We have to save each other, because the top of the ticket, the federal government, they're not coming to save us. The state's not coming to save us. We have to save each other. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all, and I hope everybody has a great night. Thanks, guys. Take care.